Spring is the time for speculation and hope and excitement and optimism, and there's a lot of that right now around Florida's wide receiver room. Now, if that ends up being the case and that hope translates to real positive results on the field in the fall in Gainesville, like y'all don't look now, but Florida, they may have all the boxes checked. I think actually you talk about the biggest question marks in college football, specifically in the SEC, the ones that I had at the end of the season was, well, hey, can Florida maximize DJ Lagway? Can they have some pass catchers to go get it done for him and make good on all his potential? Y'all don't look now. They feel like they have checked that box, to reiterate that fact right now. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. Before we do that, though, Florida Gator fans, if you like this content, if you want to see us do more Florida Gator content on this channel, the best way to let us know that is by subscribing to the channel, all right? We get to check that, get to see if you're dialed in. If you're dialed in, well, then we give you what you ask for, all right? So, as I said, you look at what Florida lost from 2024, lost Shamir DK and Elijah Badger, two individuals that accounted for collectively 1,500 yards and 80 receptions. So the year ends. The confetti falls in Atlanta, and we talk about Ohio State and their national championship game, and you start to look to next season, you're like, man, Florida's got a lot of pieces. They got a lot of pieces, but what good is a quarterback if you don't have a guy to go win one-on-one for you on the perimeter? What good is DJ Lagway's ability to throw the ball downfield if we don't have anybody that can win to go catch the football downfield for him? So my assumption was Florida going to go into the transfer portal, and they'll probably be pretty active and go grab a couple receivers. They grabbed one in a J. Michael Sturdivant, who they think they hit a home run with, but talk to somebody close to Florida, and the feeling is in Gainesville right now that they will not go to the portal in the spring to grab another transfer portal wide receiver. We've said this before. How you move in the portal dictates how you feel about your roster. If Florida thought they needed another wide receiver, they would probably go do that in the spring. So to hear they're not going to do that and to speak volumes to what they have internally, you have everything you need, I believe, to go compete at the highest level. So let's break this down a little bit. Like I mentioned, J. Michael Sturdivant, transfer portal wide receiver from UCLA, made a little bit of noise for them a season ago, not quite as much as maybe you would have hoped when it comes to a guy you're bringing in from another school when you talk about excitement from the transfer portal. I'll just say this. Florida won that recruitment over Kirby Smart in Georgia. If Georgia wants someone you're after, I promise you that's a good thing. Talk about his size, his athleticism, his speed. They think he's going to be an absolute killer for them here in 2025. So you got that. Then they also believe they hit with all of their freshman wide receivers. Vernell Brown, 5-star cat. Dallas Wilson, big body. I've been told that he's someone they are very impressed with so far through spring practice, and they think that he is not looking at all like a freshman, both physically and from how he's playing. And then Napier Montgomery, maybe not a name that you're quite as familiar with, but he's also making some plays in spring practice and is turning some heads. So if that's the case now, you have J. Michael Sturdivant plus 3 freshmen who, at best, it can help you on Saturdays. At worst, provide some extra depth for you. And then you also pair in the fact that you have a Eugene Wilson who is going to be playing, from what I have been told, more in the slot than he did in previous years, which you hope, one, will allow him to have a little more production. 2, will just create matchup food for you every single Saturday. There's a lot here. When you zoom out, you're like, okay, hey, this whole thing is coming together now. Like DJ Lagway, as good as he is, he now has some pieces to maximize his potential. Like, this is, I think, the number one piece of intel you would hope to hear if you were a Florida Gator fan thus far through spring practice. Now, what still has to happen, you still have to see your freshman wide receivers reach their potential. But I'll say this. Whenever I hear that a freshman is doing something during spring practice, it's kind of like a buddy telling you about a TV show they're watching and how it's eventually going to be good. Like, that's kind of how I feel about this. The floor has to be pretty high if we're a few practices in and you're telling me about a group of freshman wide receivers. Like, I may not turn on the first episode of your TV show and say this is the best thing I've ever seen, but you give me some time, we get to the fall, I get to season 2, maybe I get a few episodes into season 3. At that point, I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying here. I see what you're saying. I'm seeing it happen on the field. Again, at the very least, though, I'm trusting your recommendation, and I believe that there is something to what you're saying, all right? That's how I feel about Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown, and Napier Montgomery thus far into spring practice based on the intel we're hearing. So we zoom out even further. What does that mean? Maximize DJ Lagway, obviously, is the biggest part of this. But what does that mean for Florida in 2025? Well, you look at what they have coming back outside of the wide receiver position, outside of DJ Lagway. Their top 20 returning production is Florida. I believe the only team on their schedule with more returning production in all of college football is Texas A&M that they're going to have to play. And, I mean, I know that game went how it went, but I think that the Florida team that you saw play A&M in the Swamp and the team that's going to play A&M in College Station this year, two very, very different organizations, two very, very different vibes around those situations. So when you talk about how Florida can play in 2025, if you can push the ball downfield and you bring back what you bring back in that backfield with a Jaden Baugh, what you bring back on defense, what you bring back on the line of scrimmage, on offense and on defense, like what I would say about Florida is they feel very versatile. They feel like they can win a game in a lot of different ways. If it's a thing where you're consistently having to convert 3rd and 7+, sounds like you got the pieces to do it. Not ideal, but if that's a way you have to win the football game, you can get it done. I talked about the offensive line and the running back room. If it's a rock fight, it's game control, it's ground and pound, Florida can win that kind of game. If it becomes a wrestling match, great. If it becomes an MMA where we're throwing strikes here and strikes there and we go first to 40 wins, awesome. We can play that way as well. So I understand the schedule is brutal. I totally get that. That's probably the number one pushback you have if you're trying to temper optimism during this time of the year is, hey, JD, the schedule kind of sort of sucks. We got the Hunger Games out for us here in 2025. I get that. But I don't look at Florida's schedule and just automatically chalk up any of those games that they play as an automatic loss, Georgia included. And that's not saying that I think they'll be favored in some of those games, but I do think you talk about the way that they match up with some of these teams. I think Florida feels as confident in their quarterback room with DJ Lagway, and I think you feel now more confident knowing you can maximize him against pretty much everyone you're playing. So to me, for Florida, I don't know if it's a thing where you're saying let's go win the SEC this year, but if you can get to that like 8-9 win range, I'll rephrase that. 9's probably where you would like to be. If you can be greater than that, awesome. It's about the college football playoff this year for Florida. I truly believe that. I'm not saying college football playoff or fire Billy Napier, but I am saying with the window you have right now, with you loving your quarterback position and now having guys to maximize him and looking across the SEC and saying, all right, there's a lot of new faces that we don't know what Arch has at Texas or what Gunner has at Georgia and so on and so forth. This is your time. This is your time to go separate and go make some noise, and I cannot wait to watch it. But the bottom line here for Florida fans, it looks like and sounds like and feels like thus far through spring ball, you like your guys at wide receiver. If that's the case, I don't see a lot of other question marks that I'm majorly concerned about over at Florida here when we talk about what they'll do in the fall. So Florida fans, let us know how you feel about this. Let us know how you feel about the wide receiver room. Subscribe to the channel to let us know you want to see more Florida content. For Cato on the 1s and 2s, for myself, JD PicKell, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We will keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.